It's going to be a very physical one against Samoa, and Ireland will hope to come through unscathed. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. Ireland v Samoa. This one is at the Stade Jean Dargar in Bayonne. It's on Saturday 28th of August and kickoff is at 7:45 BST. Okay, so we'll have a look at the two teams. We'll only, we'll go through the Samoa team, but I can't give you too much insight on them, honestly. So we will, though, have a close look at the Ireland team after that. So we'll quickly run down through the Irish team. So fullback is Jimmy O'Brien, right wing Mac Hansen, centres Robbie Henshaw and Stuart McCluskey, left wing is Keith Earls, the halfbacks Jack Crowley and Conor Murray, front row then Cian Healy, Tom Stewart and Finlay Bealham. The second row, Ian Henderson is the captain alongside Tyke Byrne, back row Ryan Baird, Josh van der Fleer and Caelan Doris, replacements Rob Herring, Jeremy Lockman, Tom O'Toole, James Ryan, Peter O'Mahony, Craig Casey, Ross Byrne and Gary Ringrose. Okay, and then we'll have a look at the Samoa team. So, starting with the front row, we've got James Lay, Selala Lam, Paul Alo Emile. Second row then is Chris Wooey, he's co-captain. And beside him, we've got Theo McFarland. The back row is Helene Seu, Fritz Lee and Stephen Luatua. Halfbacks Jonathan Taumatene and Lima Sopoanga. Left wing is Nigel A. Wong. Centres Tamua Manu and Ulupano Jr. Sautini. Right wing is Ed Fido. And fullback is Duncan Paya Au. The replacements then we got Malolo Lay, Michael Alatoa, who's a co-captain. We got Miracle Vailagi and who else we got? Sa Jordan Taufua, Eratara Inari, Christian Lele Fano, and Neri Fomai. So, it's a decent side. Some people, I guess, Irish, especially Leinster fans, would maybe the last memory of Michael Alatoa was probably the red card, right, against La Rochelle at the closing seconds of the Champions Cup final. But the guy actually had a decent season for Leinster. So, when he comes on, I expect him to have an impact, not quite the impact he did for Leinster against La Rochelle, but to have a positive impact. And they've got some decent players in their team as well. Sautini, and then Sopoaga. You got, as I said, Lele Fano on the bench as well. You got Stephen Luatua. So, there's some decent talent that have, some of them been with Samoa, for their entire Test career. Others have been able to switch from, the likes of the All Blacks, etc. And, it's an okay team, but you would probably expect Ireland to beat that team. The last time these two teams played was in the 2019 Rugby World Cup, and it was basically pretty sure it was the game that actually confirmed that Ireland were going to go through to the quarterfinals. It finished 47-5 to Ireland, and it was a fairly comfortable win. And generally, Ireland have been kind of, I'd say, like 47-5 is maybe a little flattering to Ireland, because Samoa, they gave Scotland a game in that World Cup, and I think Ireland just were lucky to kind of catch them when they ran out of steam. I don't think it's going to be, might not be that close this time. I think Samoa will score a few more. Ireland might get up towards the 40-point mark, but I think the margin will be 20 odd points probably in the end. That which you would expect, 20 to 30 point margin really in Ireland's favour. In terms of then, we'll have a closer look at the Ireland team itself. So you got Jimmy O'Brien there at fullback. He's not going to be the starting fullback in the World Cup for the big games. But I think he is going to go to the World Cup because he offers so much utility. You can put him fullback, you can put him on the wings, you can put him in the centres. So basically covers the back five. So why wouldn't you bring him in your squad? And then right wing Mac Hansen, definitely going to be there at the World Cup, I think. And he's definitely going to be a starter as well. I think he has that right wing spot nailed down. Nobody's really come to kind of challenge him too much. I thought Calvin Nash might have maybe put his hand up to maybe not challenge him for a start, but at least be in consideration. But he didn't really. He got released from the squad and not really had that much chance to impress. So that's not going to happen. But very happy for Mac Hansen to be there anyway. I just like to see there be more competition in the squad, because you get kind of worried when the 15 almost picks themselves, because then you're thinking, well, if there are injuries, then the players below them, it means it's definitely a step down to them. So you'd like to see, on-form players keeping the guys in the team on their toes. Speaking of that, like in the centres, you've got Robbie Henshaw, Stuart McCluskey. I think Stuart McCluskey's done a really good job of that this year. Especially, I think Bundy Aki's performances have really come on. And we saw that last time against England as well. Like the guy had a really good game. I think, unfortunately, McCluskey's going to miss out on the Rugby World Cup, because I can't see us honestly bringing 4 specialist centres. I think McCluskey is going to lose out to either another winger or a back with a bit more utility, someone who can cover like wing and centre, and will probably get in there ahead of him instead. But I think he is a fantastic player, and just having him around the squad, I think, has raised the competition in the centres and has pushed the likes of Henshaw, Ringrose and Aki to kind of raise their levels as well, and make them not be complacent. I think Robbie Henshaw is absolutely going to the Rugby World Cup. Could be debate about whether what centre partnership is going to be. Is it going to be, at the moment it looks like it's Ringrose and one other, you'd have to say. So is it going to be Ringrose and Henshaw, or is it going to be Ringrose and Aki? But you know that Aki and Henshaw, from their days at Connacht and in Ireland, for Ireland as well, can form a partnership there. So that's why I think those 3 will go, because there's plenty of options to create centre combinations there. So, and that's why I think Stuart McCluskey won't go, because we don't need a specialist inside centre, because we have 2 players who are probably going to go who can cover that position, and other players who can play there at a pinch as well, the likes of Jimmy O'Brien. Left wing then is Keith Earl. So, he got his 100 cap. He also, I saw somebody said he scored his 100th try between Munster and Ireland in that game as well. So, kind of lined up really well for him. I think he has more than 100 tries altogether, because I think he scored for the Lions he was on the 2009 tour as a youngster, I think, back when people thought he was going to be the next Brian O'Driscoll. Didn't really reach those heights, but still, the guy, I don't think you can complain about what he's given to Ireland, what he gave to Munster as well. Like, the guy has been a brilliant servant for both, and I have a feeling that he's going to go to the World Cup. I think it's going to be between him and Jacob Stockdale, and Stockdale hasn't shown anything to say that he should be guy to go. I think if Andrew Conway had been fit and available, he might have been the one, because I think he's the one that had, at least in recent years, the the credit in the bank, as it were, over Earls and Stockdale. But I think in terms of if it's just a straight choice between Earls and Stockdale, I'm going with Earls. Halfbacks in Jack Crowley and Conor Murray. I'm glad to see both of them get a start, but I still would have rather to see them mix it up where it's not just always Munster with Munster and Leinster with Leinster, because there's going to come a point in the Rugby World Cup where you're going to have either, Crowley with James Gibson Park, or you're going to have Casey with Sexton, and or even Casey with Byrne. And I would have rather to see, them kind of mix it up. They basically kept it that the halfbacks were from the same province, whether that was Leinster or Munster, all the way through the warm games. The front row then, we got Cian Healy. He's absolutely going to the World Cup. Like, he can cover the entire front row. So bar injury, there's no way he's not going. Someone who is playing for a potential place, though, is Tom Stewart. I don't think he's going to get it, because we got some really good news about both Ronan Kelleher and Dan Sheehan, that both of them should be fit and ready for the Rugby World Cup. Whether that means that they're going to be ready for Romania, I'm not sure. It's probably going to be that, Sheehan, you're probably going to see him make his first start, against one of the bigger teams. So maybe come off the bench against Tonga and then start the next game. And Kelleher maybe, will be, I think he might be ready a little bit earlier, so you might see him on the bench against Romania, maybe starting against Tonga then, and then himself and Sheehan, if they're both fit and available, being there. So, but Tom Stewart, I think, with Rob Herring there on the bench, Herring, he has his place secured at the minute, but I think Stewart has a chance to show what he can do, and to kind of remind them that if there is a niggle, that maybe calling him up if they're not sure of somebody's fitness could actually be good as well. I think he's probably going to score a try or two in this game as well, because he was the URC's top try scorer. I think he has the record now as well for most tries in a single URC season. They're the typical tries that you expect a hooker to score these days, at the back of a maul. The maul's either drives over, or he's very good as well at breaking off and getting over. He has that kind of knack that Coombs has to be able to, when it looks like he's going to get stopped getting over the line, to just have enough to get over and ground the ball. They've got Finlay Bealham, who I think at the moment is, Ireland's on-form tight head prop. Tyke Furlong still doesn't look fit. He's going to get picked because he's not carrying an injury. He's just not match fit. But I think, in terms of competition, Bealham on form should be in there ahead of him. But you can see why Furlong will be picked, because he has that kind of star ability about him. But personally, I would start Bealham and have Furlong on the bench until Furlong kind of hits that those heights that we know he can, and then I'd bring him in to start from there. The second row, then we got Ian Henderson as captain. I worry about him maybe picking up an injury at some stage during the World Cup, but then we do have, I think, Joe McCarthy. He's getting a lot of praise, and rightly so, and I think that he's probably going to be the guy on standby. I don't think he's actually going to make the final squad, but I do feel that Henderson is probably going to pick up some kind of injury. That seems to be his profile in recent seasons, that he can't put together a long string of games without picking up an injury, and maybe we're going to see Joe McCarthy there. I hope that Henderson doesn't get injured, because I think he offers us a lot in that second row. He has that kind of, just natural strength and the ability as well in terms of the maul on attack and on defence. Like, he's such a nuisance in his maul defence as well, and I think he just gives us something extra there in the second row. Tyke Byrne, the guy can play second row, he can play at 6 as well, and he's absolutely going to the World Cup. Big threat at the breakdown as well. Got to keep him, healthy. Ryan Baird, I think it would have been interesting if Joe McCarthy had a few more games, because I think Baird is probably the spot that he would have been challenging the most. Baird does give you that, ability to cover the back row and the second row as well. I think that extra utility at the moment is what's kind of keeping him in the squad, I'd say, over McCarthy. But I think once McCarthy has a bit more credit in the bank after the Rugby World Cup, you're going to see him coming into the squads and maybe playing ahead of the likes of Baird, because I think Baird, he's got lots of X factor. He's hugely pacey, unbelievably pacey for, a second row / back row player. And just seeing his giraffe legs galloping down the field is a sight to behold. But I think he's got to offer more though as well. We've got to see him doing more of that kind of, in the tight work and that kind of stuff too, and maybe actually finishing off one of those breaks, or at least, finding his support when he does make a break. Josh Van der Fleer, former, current, I guess, World Player of the Year, but I don't think he's going to win it this year. He's still at a very high standard though. Caelan Doris probably our, best forward, certainly of the loose forwards this year, and certainly putting his hand up for actually being Ireland's best player this year, and probably will be, in that conversation. If Ireland, make it deep into the competition, would be in that conversation for World Player of the Year. But I think Ireland will have to break that hoodoo and at least get to a semi-final for him to be considered, because World Cup years is generally going to be, one of the finalists probably, is going to end up with an accolade. The bench then, you got Rob Herring again. I don't think he's under serious threat from Stewart for his spot. But I think, Stewart again, kind of similar to Joe McCarthy, that he just needs that little bit more experience, and then people are going to see that he is a better option, but he doesn't have that yet. He still has, that unfortunate thing of giving away silly free kicks and silly penalties, and that he's going to have to eliminate that from the game. But he does have upside, and his general kind of play as a hooker as well has improved immensely throughout the season as well. So hopefully we get to see that from him. But Rob Herring, and you expect him to hit his men in the line out, to scrummage well, and not as good in the loose as either Sheehan or Kelleher, but he's a solid backup there for them. Jeremy Loughman there, he's playing due to injury, but he has a chance to show now that if the likes of Kilcoyne don't recover from their injury, then he's the man to take that spot. Tom O'Toole, really impressed with him in the Six Nations. Hope he gets decent game time, because in terms of front row carrying, I think he's probably the best player that we actually have in the squad at that. He always seems to make meters beyond contact, and he's not shy of taking a hit, but also he does try to avoid contact as well. He doesn't just run into his man, and I think that's why he gets that extra yardage. James Ryan has been in great form this year. Peter O'Mahony, that guy, he's just made of teak. He's super competitive, and absolutely going to the World Cup. He's going to be our starting six at the World Cup, I believe. Then we've got Craig Casey there. I think he's going to be one of the nines that go. It's going to be himself, Murray and James Gibson Park. Caelan Blade was released, so those are the three that are there. But I think it's going to be between himself and Conor Murray to show who's going to be on the bench for the big games. At the moment, for my money, is Craig Casey. Then we've got Ross Byrne. He's also in a battle with Crowley, I think, to be the backup to Sexton. But then, we don't know what's going to actually happen with Sexton, because he's been out for a while. And remember as well that, it's not just a case of he's been banned and he's coming back from the ban. It's the fact that, remember, he was injured and he was sitting in the stands when he, and obviously came down onto the pitch and got his ban. So he's coming back from injury too. So one of these guys is definitely going to have to step up into the 10 shirt, against either South Africa or Scotland, or potentially against both, I think, because Sexton, he's not going to just come back and be like amazing and not get any more injuries. He's definitely going to get an injury sometime during the World Cup. It might mean that he misses one or two games, and these guys have got to step up. They've also, whoever is like third choice is going to have to step up as well, in terms of, whether it's going to be, on the bench against Romania to start, because I think they're probably going to have Sexton starting that one just to get him game time, and then either Crowley or Byrne are going to be on the bench, and then against Tonga the other person is going to be involved. So I like that it's so competitive between them. I think Crowley has maybe just edged ahead in my mind for it, but Ross Byrne is a quality option there as well. And I think in terms of 10s compared to 2019, like we had who was it? We had McCarthy and his name's gonna out of my head. The guy that I know that he got engaged and got married recently, right? His name will come back to me, but you know who I'm talking about. The guy that came from New Zealand as well. But I think in terms of quality, these two guys, I think they've certainly got more potential than them in an Ireland jersey. And I think at the moment that they're actually probably at a higher level. Then we've got Gary Ringrose there at 23. He's absolutely going to be, starting at 13 for Ireland in the World Cup. But he can cover wing at a pinch as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where he actually comes on there. Joey Carberry is, why could I not remember his name? I don't know. But yeah, I think, that Crowley and Byrne are probably a better combination than Carty and Carberry, for my money at this stage. And I think especially with Crowley's just going to get better and better. And it looks like he's maybe at the moment, at least, a natural successor to Sexton as kind of a long-term 10, but Ross Byrne is definitely going to be around there as well. And then you've got, like, you have young Prendergast coming through too. But, that's for the future. In terms of this game, as I said, I think that Ireland are going to, they're going to win it comfortably. There are going to be struggles in the game. It's going to be a physical game. You don't want people getting broken cheekbones or anything like that from the game, or any kind of injury on either side. It's not just Ireland. I'm talking about Samoa too. You want to see every nation's best players at the Rugby World Cup, because that's what the World Cup is, like a celebration of the best rugby players in the world and having them go to head there. So for at this late stage, for anyone from either team to get injured would be, very disappointing. I hope everyone comes through the game well, but I think Ireland are going to win it by probably 20 to 30 points in the end, but Samoa are going to make them work for it. And, what we want from Ireland is to see a bit more fluidity from them, I think, because, they've been kind of workmanlike, I think, in their warm so far. And, I don't want them to still be workmanlike by the time that we get to that Romania game. I want, them to feel confident that they can change compared to their best 15, that they can change maybe, or the best 23 even, that, the 10 guys who are outside of that best 23 can actually be involved against Romania, every single one of them, and not that we're playing almost a full strength side against Romania. And that's what I'm kind of worried about, is that they're going to decide it's the first game, let's put out almost a first, like a 1.5 team, rather than playing most of the guys who is going to be probably their for some of them at least, their one involvement in the Rugby World Cup. Get those guys on, let them play Romania, and let them feel confident that they can run up a big score against them. But yeah, going to be kind of a nervous one, I think, on this one, and it's going to be about having those. There's a lot of frontline players there having to come through unscathed, and I think